Hi folks, welcome. We are going to get started here in just another minute. Looks like we've got some other folks dialing in, so we'll just give them a minute here to get started, and then we will start the presentation. All right, good morning. My name is Tiffany Pearson. I am a project manager here at Athene. I just wanted to thank you all so much for joining us today. We're excited to have our partner and our friends at BNP here to present the MAD5 Index. Before we get started, I do just have a couple of housekeeping items to go over. The first thing is today's webinar is being recorded. We will not have the slides to share, but again, we will have this recording sent out to you via email, however you registered, and that should come out later this afternoon. The second thing, I just wanted to mention that your phones are muted just to help us keep the sound and quality control, but we do welcome your questions. So there is a chat box that you should be able to type any of your questions in. I'm going to type a little something here. You should see that pop up. So that's where you type your questions. And then at the end, we will go ahead and try to get to all of those, time permitting, and we will turn it over to Jason Masters now. He is a product marketing specialist here at Athene, and he's going to give us just a brief overview and go ahead and introduce our presenter.
Thanks, Tiffany, and thanks everyone for joining today. As Tiffany said, I'm a product marketing specialist here on our strategy and planning team in marketing. Just a few high-level comments before we turn it over to BNP. With a lot of the focus recently at Athene has been on the recent launch of 2 new indices that we added to our lineup in early February. But with that, we also want to make sure that we're highlighting the power and of the full lineup of our alternative indices within our product, including BNP. And that the power of our full package is understood within the product lineup. So BNP Paribas Multi-Asset Diversified 5 Index, or MAD5 Index to make it shorter, has been in our lineup since April of 2016. So we're approaching now 4 years in the product, and continues to be an attractive option today, which is really a testament to not only the strength of the index design that the MAD5 brings, but also the partnership that we have with BNP as well. We believe that the index offers a very compelling value proposition to our customers, and it's also complementary to the new indices that we launched in February. Couple of highlights that you'll see more throughout the presentation on this index. It's a classic multi-asset design, providing diversified exposure to equities, bonds, and commodities on a global basis, and is designed for consistent performance in a variety of economic environments, which you'll see again throughout the presentation today. So we're excited to have Alice Tellamy with BNP on the line with us to go over the index in more detail and their design. And with that, I will hand it over to Alice.
Hi, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So today we are going to introduce you to the BNP Multi-Asset Diversified Index, which is also called MAD5 Index. which, as Jason said, has been for on Athene flagship indices since April 2016. It has been live for more than 4 years, since January 2016, and has more than 17 years of history. So with that, first let's get familiar with BNP Paribas, the sponsor of the BNP MAD5. So BNP Paribas is one of the largest banks in the world, with over 200,000 employees. It has a diversified business mix, with over a third of its operation in the retail space in many different markets. Thanks to this, BNP can proudly show very strong ratings versus their peers and a solid balance sheet. BNP Paribas has been present in the US and contributed to the country development for over 160 years. It now has different entities, the most famous of them being Bank of the West, which is a retail arm covering a large part of the territory in the Midwest and western part of the country. So at the heart of our corporate and institutional banking unit is our equity derivatives department, which proudly wins awards every year to recognize BNP's capabilities in designing successful products such as proprietary indices. The MAD5 is one of them and is relying on our flagship multi-asset strategy since 2012. And this strategy that we're about to discuss has also won several awards in 2016, 17, and 19 to recognize its construction and performance. So now let's dive into how the BNP MAD5 Index is constructed. So what is the BNP MAD5 Index? It's an entirely rules-based index, which is very important to mention, meaning that everything is systematic and without human intervention post-launch. It relies on 3 core concepts. The first concept is diversification, meaning mingling different assets. And it has been proven to bring outperformance in different market environments. The second pillar
Alice,
here.
This is Tiffany. I just wanted to let you know, if you are moving through your presentation, the slides aren't moving, so we're still on that first slide.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, let me start again, maybe. So let's start again. Sorry. So if we start here, what I was saying, so BNP is one of the largest banks in the world with over 200,000 employees. It has a diversified business mix with over a third of its operations in the retail space in many different markets. And thanks to this, BNP can probably show very strong ratings versus its peers and a solid balance sheet. On the next slide, so you can see that BNP has been present in the US for a very long time and contributed to the country development. It now has different entities, and the most famous of them, probably for you all, is Bank of the West, which is a retail arm covering a large part of the territory in the Midwest and western part of the country. And at the heart of our corporate and institutional banking unit is equity derivatives department, which proudly wins awards every year to recognize BNP capabilities in designing successful products such as proprietary indices. And the MAD5 was one of them. And it's relying on one of our flagship multi-asset strategy that has been created in 2012. And this strategy that we are about to discuss has also won several awards in 2016, 17, and 19 to recognize the index construction and performance. So now if we dive in onto the construction of the index. So again, the BNP MAD5 is an entirely rules-based index, meaning that everything is systematic. There is no human intervention in the rules. And it relies on 3 core principles. The first principle is diversification, which has proven to bring out performance in different market environments. The second concept in this index, which is very important, is the dynamic allocation. So every day the index rebalances the assets to generate the most performance possible. And lastly, it also incorporates a volatility control mechanism to offer a stable performance over time to consumers. So now let's look at each concept in more detail. So first step is to have a diverse portfolio. So the BNP MAD5 Index offers access to 8 components: US equities and bonds, European equities and bonds, Asian equities and bonds, and 2 commodity components. And these components are complementary and they are easy to track. And such diversification is very important because it allows customers not to put all their eggs in the same basket by, let's say, only investing in US equities, and to benefit from diversification and find performance in different market environments. The second step is the dynamic allocation. So all the assets that I've just mentioned are rebalanced every day, which allows the MAD5 index to adapt very quickly to the changes in the market, much more so than indices that would rebalance weekly or monthly, for example. If a customer was trying to change his allocation daily between different indices based on what he sees in the news or in his interpretation, this would be impossible. But here, the BNP MAD5 Index does this for you. So every day, it will choose the best combination of assets to generate the most returns with the limited risk. And lastly, the last step is the volatility control. So that is implemented on top of the allocation, similarly to most proprietary indices in the FI space. This mechanism allows customers to receive stable returns over time by limiting the asset exposure in times when market volatility becomes too high. And it also allows Athene to offer stable and attractive participation rates on their trading strategies linked to the MAD5 index. So with that said, now that we have looked at how the BNP MAD5 index is built, let's see at how it has performed. So the first thing that we see here is the dynamic allocation between the components. So you can see that it varies a lot based on market conditions, which shows that the index adapts to its environment. So in times when the markets are too risky, for example, the overall allocation to the assets is reduced. So you can look at 2006, 2008, for example. But on the other hand, when things are going well in the market, the index redials up on its exposure to benefit from the positive performance. Now let's look at the benefits of diversification and risk control. On the top part of this page, you can see all the performances of the different assets, and you see that they all perform differently. For example, when you zoom on 2008, gold was doing better than other assets. And at that time, for example, the index chose the right combination between all assets to return the best performance possible. And so on the bottom part of this slide, you can see that it has proven successful and the index stayed mostly flat in terms of crisis. So on here, we see again the same thing, which is very important to note, is that the BNP MAD5 index offers stable and smooth returns over time, which fits the purpose of steady accumulation offered in retirement products such as FIA. So over time, the index has returned on average 5.8% per annum with little risk. And this includes periods of crisis, but also periods of exceptional performance, such as 2019, when the BNP MAD5 has returned 13%. If you look at how it performed in terms of crisis, once again, you can see the benefits of the BNP MAD5 index robust construction. So people, for example, would remember Q4 of 2008, when the S&P plunged by more than 22% over Q4 only. And in that same period of time, the BNP MAD5 index would have returned 3.9%. So in a lot of cases, the index manages to find sources of performance outside of US equities and therefore to offer a positive performance to customers. Now, if we focus on 2019, so as I mentioned earlier, the performance of the BNP MAD5 index in 2019 was exceptional, outperforming many other indices in the FI space. So what we can see on this slide is the allocation in 2019, which evolved based on market conditions for each asset class. And overall, the index has adapted very nicely to return an outstanding 13%. So these returns, combined with strong par rates that are offered by Athene, form a really powerful story for your customers. So what happened in 2019? So the main economic themes were trade war, Brexit, economic slowdown, and monetary policy. Amid all this, the index managed to pick the best asset allocation at all times to post the strongest returns of 13%. And equities were particularly strong across the globe, especially in the US and in Europe. Now let's look at the resources that are at your disposal to help you tell the story to your customers. So we have built a whole suite of marketing resources that are available to explain the index and give you some talking points on its construction and performance. So first, there is a public website, which means no login is required there, on which you can go right after this webinar and look at everything that is available. All of this is also accessible by your clients at any time without restriction. On this website, you will also find an index infographic, which is a 3-step description of the index construction. You will also find a video, a 2-3-minute video that can be shared with customers or that you can show, during your meetings to your customers that explain the index construction into detail. And then very important, because we get a lot of questions on this, you can also extract all the data that you need from the website. We provide daily index values that you can extract via Excel, as well as performance statistics. And you can also have a look at the asset allocation over time. You can zoom on certain periods of time if you need so, and you can also extract all these weight values in Excel. All the marketing resources that we created can be downloaded from the website, or you can ask them to Athene to get hard copies. The most detailed piece of these is the index brochure, which is 8 pages describing the index into a lot of details. The second piece that is really key is the index 2-pager. So it's a summary of the index construction, and it also gives you key statistics on the index performance. We'll also put at your disposal a 2-pager about BNP Paribas should you have any questions on who is the index sponsor. Lastly, we also provide Athene with weekly statistics that they can communicate to you, showing the index performance and allocation every Monday. So we are also available for support with webinars such as this one if you need for your team, as much as required. And then finally, there is a contact mailbox on the website, mad5.index@usbnpparibas.com, that I encourage all of you to use when you have questions, and we will respond as soon as we can. So that's it. I hope you will walk away from this webinar with a more precise idea of the benefits of using the BNP MAD5 Index in your customers' FIAs, and also of the resources that are at your disposal for further conversation. So thank you very much for your time and interest, and that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Alice, we do have a question here, and I hope that if others have a question, they write them in now before we get off the line. I'm going to turn it to Jason to read you what question we had and see if you can give us a good answer.
Yeah, so the question today is, how do we arrive at returns prior to the launch date of the index in 2016? So I'll let you take that one, Alice, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So basically, when we launched the index in 2016, there were some rules. We wrote a rule book, which are also available on the website. And to get the history prior to that, we applied the same rules to the same components to build the history back to 2002. Does that answer your question?
I think so. No follow-ups from there.
Okay.
So right now, that is our only question. We can wait here just another minute and see if anything else comes through. But otherwise, again, thank you all for joining us today. This was recorded, so we will get that sent out to you via email. It'll also be posted on Athene Connect for you to access there as well. We hope that you enjoyed today's webinar, and we will have another one brought to you by BNP. Alice will join us again later in March, so look out for the details to register for that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.